So amazing. I kept the microphones on during that, so you heard me just going dig 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 dig. Amazing. So we'll just keep it like that. We'll just keep it like that. That's great. Great start off to the podcast.
What I love is you were about to mute the mics as you came in as well.
I was, aye, and I just stopped.
Aye,
it's amazing. So as we started a while ago, we started talking to a funeral director, and. Sort of just to explain the original plan quickly was to have like a bit of a death week, which sounds absolute gothy, right? But the original idea was to get like a crime scene cleaner, a funeral director, like a guy that works in a mortuary, possibly like a paramedic.
Serial killer.
I mean, if there's a place to like book a serial killer,
are they no podcast guests?
No,
I am an active serial killer. Interview me.
Aye. Like what kind of questions would you like and stuff. It could be a weird one.
That'd be great.
But again, we're hoping to make death less taboo. Like everybody sort of worries about this a lot more than I think they should. A lot of the time, and it is.
To be fair though, you didn't care what happens when you. I mean, I think that nothing happens when you die, but you didn't ken.
That's it.
And I think that's what people are scared of. They didn't ken what it's like.
Aye. Well, we have on the line right now Marie Fagan. She's a crime scene cleaner from MD Trauma Clean. How are you doing, Marie?
Hello. I'm good, thanks. Everybody's well.
Excellent, man. Excellent. So, basically, we found out yesterday that you've actually been on TV, which I hadn't realised previously before.
Yes. The BBC followed us for about 3 years and done an hour-long documentary called the Grime Queens.
Yeah.
I think that was about 3 years ago, and then it was back on iPlayer this time last year.
Right.
So yeah, I still get a lot of, oh, you're that girl off the TV, and I still get calls saying, you know, my son died and I saw you on the TV and I'd really like you to clean it up, and, you know, a broad spectrum of things that happen through it.
Aye. So, well, I think if we start off by sort of talking about your background, sort of, and what eventually sort of led you into this line of work, that'd be a good start.
So, my dad had a cleaning company he started in the 80s, which was construction industry based. I was kind of threw out the door at 17 on site, and I liked it, I hated it, tried other things, and I always ended up keeping going back. And then when like CSI and all that came out on the TV, we'd be watching it as a family, and you know, everybody would be like, oh, who done that, who killed them, and I would be like, who's cleaning the blood? And you could throw pillows at me and all that and go, you're sick. And I was a bit serious, and somebody must clean it up. So at that time my brothers kind of worked in the company, and them and my dad were like, no way. And I'm like, aye. And then when my dad died, I kind of thought, I'm going to follow my dream, and that was 12 years ago, and I went and done all my training down in Bristol, and that's been it ever since.
So what?
I love that.
It's amazing that you watched Crime Scene Investigation, and then you were like, that's my calling in life.
I don't want to find the murderer. I just want to clean up.
Aye.
Clean the shop.
Exactly. I don't care what happens.
Did you sit there and think to yourself, like, oh, that is a weird thought that I've just had?
No, at that time I didn't. It was more like a business thought more than anything. And then as the years progressed, I would sometimes come out a job and go, why did I do that? Why am I able to do that? like some really bad ones, or some really filthy ones, and I question myself, like, how can I possibly do this? But I do. I love it. It's, all the staff I've got, they all thoroughly enjoy it and are really good at it. But it's certainly a specific type of person.
I mean, I've got
you couldn't just put anybody in.
I watch a lot of like clean up things on YouTube. So
because there
like
is a YouTube channel for that.
Aye. There's a YouTube channel that's specifically a crime scene cleaner. But I also watch like hoarders
really?
and stuff like that. So I love watching all
Yeah.
that, but whether I could do it or not is a different.
It's a different story. Like I've got like a really my stomach is like really bad for like any sort of like mad smell. I'm away.
Oh, I smell. I can't do smell.
Aye. So like,
you wouldn't be able to do it then.
definitely no.
Well, saying that, the mask. I mean, don't get me wrong, you're all masked up, but you know, it's really difficult to work with the masks as well because you're really warm in the suits and you're really, you know, and it's the smell's a weird one because you smell it for days. You know, like I could go into a death scene and come out. There's been instances where I've been in a death scene 5 minutes, came out, and I've maybe had people in the van or the car or whatever, and they'll say you're absolutely stinking because it just clings to you. And then no matter how much you're masked up, if you get a smell of it, you have a shower, and you know, I'll say to people, "Can you smell that off me after I've been showered?" And it's just in your nose, it's just in your head, you know. So
it's like
the smell's a weird one.
Like skunks.
I
Skunk
think
smell doesn't come off.
So the death scenes, I would say that imagine the back shop of a butcher shop.
Like warm
and what that
beef and stuff
like. Yeah, like meat, like rotten meat kind of a. And we all smell the same.
Delicious.
I've worked in a butcher shop
all
before.
Smell the same.
I've worked in a butcher shop before.
Really?
Like the sort of smell of like they just. I was going to say live meat. Ridiculous. Like raw meat is like bad in itself.
Yeah.
If you're not used to it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But the rotting meat and rotting.
I mean, I've seen the state of you. So there was a day. I'm going to tell the story. This is nothing in comparison to what you deal with, but this is the level that Stephen's on.
How bad I am.
So there was a day where I heard some commotion down the stair, and my mum was between like greeting and laughing. She didn't seem to really understand which one she wanted to do, but she had went through the living room to give Stephen a sniff of chicken that she'd bought for Iceland, bad press for Iceland here, and apparently it was off, and she was between laughing and greeting, and Stephen instantly started gagging. And then I think you threw up, Did you throw up?
But what happened was she came through with the chicken. I trained to be a chef a long time ago, and she for some reason someone must have happened to her nose. She couldn't smell properly what was happening, but she brought the chicken through, and it was definitely like it was well past its sell-by date. So she brought it through, and she was like, does this smell after you? And immediately like like that, and so I was sick that day. It was awful. So that's how bad my stomach is. Just an off-bit chicken. That's me away.
So you're not doing a death scene?
Not at all. Couldn't do it. Couldn't do it at
No.
all.
A lot of their staff as well can do the blood, but if they open my fridge that's been switched off and there's a load of rotten food in it, they run and gag. I used to be like, I couldn't cope with the smell of sick, but I could cope with all other smells. But as time went on, I think you just train your brain really to, you know, you're neither up nor down. Because I can obviously go into a death scene with no mask now. I don't actually perform the cleaning without a mask on, but you know, I can go in and, you know, just walk about or what have you. My nose leads me to whatever room.
I'm sorry to say this, but I think you're a psychopath.
You know, I've been called one. Maybe I am. I do ask myself the question, why can I do it, you know?
Well, there is the idea that, I mean, people have got the idea that psychopaths are just serial killers.
Yeah, because we get called psychopaths for the sort of same thing, like having like a really dark sense of humour and openly saying it in front of people that aren't expecting it a lot of the time.
No, but beyond that, like, a lot of firemen are psychopaths. They've got no fear, they've got no thought they just jump into a fucking building that's on fire.
Exactly,
so it's very possible that you are a psychopath.
Like one of the good
nice
ones.
way.
Aye.
I think the both of you should really watch what you're saying, because remember, I do have clinical bins.
That's a compliment. I gave you a compliment there.
I could do a 2-for-1 here.
You didn't get paid for that though. That's just a hobby at that point.
I remember one time we were chatting with someone, and we said, she's like, "No, my man's a real bee," and we were like, "Well, it's fine. I said, we can dispose of and clean up." All in jest, by the way. All in jest.
I could just imagine somebody's face that isn't used to that sort of conversation, and like the very mention of that, just going, "What the fuck did she just say there?"
I know. I'm not going to end up in your bin. I better watch what I'm saying here.
Just the fear to know that you can't actually do that.
One of my sealed containers.
Oh, aye.
I need to make sure where to go for that.
Well, I want to go back a bit. I want to go back a bit and just talk about your first day, because you've had the idea to do it for a long time. What was your first day like? Mm-hmm. Like from going from like.
Job I had for.
On you go. Sorry.
It was really sad, the first one, because it was winter, and a guy had obviously been. The story behind it was that he'd been climbing the roof, and he was looking to get lead from the roof, and obviously there was a skylight and it was covered in snow. He didn't know it was a skylight and fell right through it.
Oh Jesus!
And he lay there bleeding out for, I think it was a disused warehouse.
Right.
And I think it was like once a fortnight or something. Security checked it, and that's when he was found.
Jesus.
And it was a really hard clean, because it fell onto like half of them had been lying on like sealed concrete, but the other half had been like, it was all kind of, the seal had been broken. So as we were cleaning the blood, it just kept coming back up through and back up through and back up through. Now, we're talking hours of this, it's really seeped in. So it was a big learning curve for me, as well as it was kind of quite traumatic, because I was freaking out because this blood wouldn't stop. Where it was sealed, it was just a spray and a wipe, if you like, but, the rest of it. And it turned out that we had to go and get sealer and actually sanitise and seal it in. Just that was the only way we were going to stop it coming out.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my first job.
Well, I'm getting chucked into the deep end. Christ.
Oh,
aye. So that was my first one.
That's
it. And then after that, it was just.
Well, that's good. Obviously, going for like watching the CSI programs and stuff like that. Just going straight into the deep end again. So your first job is like literally like a really hard one to start off with. That must have been absolutely mental for you.
Aye. And then just remember something else. So we done another one, and it was really quite bad. Mm-hmm. And there was a load of biohazard bags, load of like bedding and stuff like that, right? And at the time, our yard where our bin was like 40 minutes drive from our home, right? So we bagged everything, put it in the van. It was really late. The kids were really young at the time as well, and we were kind of wanting home showered, go and pick up the kids from the grandparents, all of that. So we were like, right, we've got waste carrier's licence, all that malarkey, we'll be fine. We'll just go to the yard in the morning. So I was out the next morning, and we'd obviously been hoovering up. Completely forgot to empty the hoover, and through the night, all the maggots, all the carcasses attached.
Oh,
and the
God.
full front of the van was just loads of pies. Like, he opened the door, there's like a big cloud in them. So I just told him, I'm running up the drive. Oh my God, I never emptied the hoover. you're that focused on different things, and you know, it was a real mistake. But and then so we had to get rid of them, plug the fogger in, fog the full van because there was nobody I was sitting in it.
Jesus Christ!
Aye. So I don't
man.
even know if I should have disclosed that information actually. That was 12 years ago. That was like right at the beginning. So,
well, again, as these sort of learning curves that I was interested in learning about,
they'll help you get better as time goes on.
Aye, because you'll have learned from now on never to do that again. I'm assuming.
Aye, exactly. I mean, that's a lot. Like the course was like, you know, really good. Lot of class work, and then you got like the practical work. But it was like the needle sweep one was good, but it was like fake blood and stuff. Like you were cleaning up. You don't really know the extent of it until you're there and you're on it, you know. And everyone, even now, some of them, you know, I'm like, God Almighty, you know, like this year's been really tough, to be honest. We've done more suicides through this pandemic than we would normally do in a year. Same as with undiscovered death. And for a while there, we just weren't getting a break. It was like every single day there was a death scene in. And it was starting to really get to me, to be honest, because, and the staff, I mean, we talk it out. We always like, in the evening, you know, you reflect on your day. You don't really speak about it when you're in doing it. It's more when you get back at night and you kind of look back and you see it all, you see the full scene. And then I always say to my staff and myself, pick up the phone, let's just talk it out and discuss it with each other. And that's the kind of way we get through it. But I was starting to feel a wee bit, I need to get these out of my head. I just couldn't get them out of my head for a good few weeks. And then I had to just like blank it out, and that was that. Dust myself down and carry on as you do. But it was really harrowing. A lot of them are really sad. Suicides are really, really, really sad.
I would imagine that suicide is possibly the worst thing that you have to deal with, because then I don't know how much detail you get told, or whether you know the person or like names or whatever. But that seems to me to be the thing that I would struggle with the most, apart from the smell, obviously. Aye.
Well, we kind of can. My personal belief is the undertakers go in, the police go in, or whoever go in, right? They decide if it's been suicide or whatever. They leave. The undertakers come in. They take the body away, and then we go in. So, you know, we kind of see the last minutes, moments, everything. We see like the half-drunk cup of tea, or the half-drunk glass of wine, or the bite out the sandwich, the shape of the head on the pillow, you know, like all the pills still kind of strewed round about. One recently we found a kind of confession that was really, I was like, oh my God, I need to stop reading that, I don't want to read anymore. You know, like, and then I had the scenario of, I knew the man had a daughter. I knew that the victim had a family, and I had this whole scenario of, what do I do here? Like, I don't really want to mess that kid's head up, but again, I don't want to not see any in the family's not getting closure. It was a really, really hard one.
It's mad because
so things like that.
You're getting a bit like a kind of snapshot of like exactly what happened on the night, sort of thing before.
Yeah.
Mad.
And then if you're talking to the family as well, like, you kind of become like, you know, like not a counsellor or anything, but you know, some of them will ask a lot of in-depth questions, and other ones they just want closure and they don't want anything else. There was one in particular a few years ago, and the mother had lost her son, and she was absolutely fine. She was great. She was, you know, like chatting away and blah blah blah. And I like the family not to be there. I like to take the kind of trauma side away. They don't see it. It's not like she's looking and seeing that was my son's final. You know, like that's what it looked like. That's what was left behind him, kind of thing. Or or if there's like blood spatter or anything like that, I like take all that away. But in particular, this woman had came, and it was when we were taking the beds out. She was like, she just really lost it. Right. So we were like, get the bed down, put it back in. But, comforting her and, try to say, can you please just, your bed's going away, just let us do it. And, no, I want to be here. And that was really difficult because she was just unconsolable. It was a shame, it really was.
That's another part to that job. It's another part to that job that a lot of people don't really take into consideration. Is that the actual counselling side? Like again, some people just want it completely out of the way, but some folk, like, it does genuinely pique their interest a wee bit to see like the sort of final moments. As I said before, it's like a snapshot of the last time, basically. It's harrowing in a way.
It's very harrowing. To be honest, I've coped really well with it the whole year. Like, some are really sad, they're all really sad, but some you just think are sadder than others, and some of them you think, did they really mean to do that? Did they know they were going to die? And I done one very recent where a guy had slashed his throat, and he survived, and it was amazing to us. And he had this lovely sofa, and he was in hospital, and I'm like, right, we need to save this. It's it was expensive. It looked as if he'd just got it, and I'm like, let's clean this as much as we can so that he's not coming back to an empty living room as such. All it's gone is like the rug, and everything else we were able to clean up. And then there was one in the summer, and I think we'd done 5 or 6 in the week, and we'd went to this one, and she was a retired headmistress, beautiful lady, really, really lovely lady, and she had tripped on her second stair, right, but she'd a couple of glasses of wine, and the alcohol thins the blood, so it's like an absolute murder scene. There was blood everywhere, like from the hall, everywhere she walked, everywhere she touched. The bathroom was just fully congealed, loads and loads of it, footprints, handprints. I mean, it was really, really full on. And she was there when we were cleaning up, and she was still kind of shaky on her feet. And I said, have a wee seat. And she was sat chatting to us while we were doing it. And then she was upstairs, so we were like, right, we can get you downstairs now with the toilets downstairs. So we were helping her bring all her stuff down and like just make a wee bed in the sofa for her and stuff like that. And we got in the Jeep, and I looked at my colleague Charlene, and I said, I feel as if I'm going to burst out crying. And she said, me too. And I was like, I'm going to grieve. And she's like, why are you going to grieve? And I was like, because she survived. She's the first one that they've actually been alive. And she was like, I don't want to do it. For like, so it just shows you how it gets you, Like we were totally, it was so good. It felt really good that we sorted that way, and we helped her, and we were driving away, and she was fine. So, it does get you. It does get you.
It's amazing. Again, another aspect of your job is not just that. You're not just dealing with sort of crime scene cleaning. You're dealing with sort of different biohazard stuff. You have been. You've been sort of busy doing like COVID-19 cleanups and stuff like that, or
loads of COVID.
Loads of
COVID.
So what's the process you have to go through for doing that? I've seen like the sort of the place gets bombed sort of thing, like a I don't know what's in there and stuff. Could you explain it?
So we've got the foggers. We'll only use government tested, passed sanitisers. That's one thing. I don't mess about with the products I use, because I've got to keep myself, my staff, and the clients safe. So we pay I think it's like 80 quid or something like that 5 litre for our stuff, for our products. We've all got like hepatitis B jags, because we do like drug dens and things like that as well. And any death scene or any scene you go into, you've no idea that these people have had.
Definitely.
So that's another kind of protection thing for us. As with the COVID, so for example, the place will be closed. We suit up, double gloves, the really heavy duty masks, and we've got foggers. So the place will be fogged, and then we've got like the same sanitizer and wipes, so they're all wiped down. But we've just about 2 months ago bought another machine, and it's an electronic gun. So basically, it looks like a water pistol, to be honest.
Right.
And it's got a laser, like a light on it, and basically it does an electronic charge.
Right.
So it's like 360. So if you point it at a handle, it'll do 360, the full handle,
Nice.
chair handle, things like that. And that's really good because the foggers and stuff, say it's like a big department store or, do a lot of shops. So you need to like isolate the smoke alarms and everything because the fogger sets them off.
Mm-hmm.
And this, you don't, the fogger, it's like, the best way to describe a fogger is like a smoke machine in a nightclub.
Right.
Yeah. So you imagine that in a confined space. So it really goes for your lungs if you've not got a mask on. So you've got to like leave it an hour or two before people can then go back in.
Oh.
But with the gun, you do the gun and you come out. You do like you spray wipe or you use the wipes for like keyboards, mice. You've got to make sure you're every single touch point you hit. And then basically that's it. They're ready to go back in, kind of thing. So they're like, say, in the construction industry, the site shut, you go in, do your stuff, the site can be back open again.
So I'm guessing this is like, if there's been an outbreak somewhere, you'll go in and clean it up afterwards, as opposed to a preventative thing. Right, okay. Because I've noticed there are people in like your local shop that have people coming in to do preventative stuff that apparently lessens the cause of viruses hanging about or whatever. But you do after the fact.
There's a lot of I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but there's a lot of kind of cowboy people come out the woodwork with us, and a friend of mine who knows my business had their work had an outbreak, and she kind of knew a wee bit of history about it. She worked with me a wee while, and she says to me, this company's came in and they're telling us that their product lasts for 30 days, and I was like, no way, absolute bollocks. There's not a product out there that's government tested that'll last 30 days. And you imagine a door handle with 200 people touching it daily, that's going to break that product down straight away. There's no way it's going to last 30 days.
Interesting.
So there's a lot of people out there charging thousands for, sorry, my dog's so fast. There's a lot of people out there just taking the absolute piss out of people.
That's interesting, because the thing that I was talking about was people saying that that's clear for
30 days.
30 days. Roughly 30 days.
Yeah. No.
So that's bullshit then.
No. I would be wanting absolute proof of the pie with that. The other thing as well, we've got this machine called the ATP machine, right? So it doesn't pick up. It's like a swab machine, yeah?
Right.
Like, so the way that works, it picks up bacteria. It won't pick up a virus, right? But it's given a lot of people peace of mind that when we've been in and done the deep clean, we swab before we we go in. So you take a swab, you put it in the machine. If you get a reading over 30, you need immediate action.
Right.
And then anything under 10, it's good, it's safe to go. And it gives you a wee pie chart and all of that, and the name you can type in where you've been and all that malarkey. And that's giving people a hell of a lot of peace of mind, and us, to be honest, because we're known, right, we've not left any bacteria lying around, because no bacteria, things stick to stuff, see, like fridge handles, or like the button on a kettle, the tap where you wash your hands, like they're all kind of where I would say, right, this is what we'll test, we'll do before and afters on.
Yeah.
So we use that as well, which is really good. But there's you can't miss a thing. You can't like on your way out not do the handle on the way out. Do you know what I mean?
That's it.
I wouldn't have even thought of that. See, this is why I'd be shite at doing that, because
that's good. I've heard cleaners. I've heard cleaners that sort of like going to schools and stuff like that, like the sort of traditional 9 to 5 cleaner. They'll go in and they'll sort of miss stuff. Like they'll sort of give the flare a wee mop. But usually like in depth, you usually have to get into the nitty gritty and all the bits that they've missed, user cleaning sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's like
really in depth. We're really in depth, and we've got a really good trained eye.
Mm-hmm.
Like everywhere I go, it's a bit of a pain in the arse. Everywhere I go, like if I go to a restaurant, if I go to a takeaway, if I go into a toilet, like my eyes, like everywhere, like oh my god, that's just the way I am.
I'm glad this is on Zoom and you're not in the house.
Job I do.
Exactly. Aye.
I'm glad it's not on camera in my house. I'll tell you.
Oh, that's a question we're going to ask at some point as well.
That was a question we had for later on. We'll save that for later on, because I think it's a good question.
So there's a TV show called Spotless, and I'm imagining that if what I'm about to ask has happened, you're not going to go fully in depth because it's not great. But have you had like... So I'll explain the premise of this TV show. It's a show called Spotless, and it's a guy who runs a crime scene thing, and he ends up in a situation where it's like he's like got a pal who's a bit of a dickhead, and he becomes like half mobbed up. So there's a gangster who keeps killing people, and then he's the one that has to clean up. Have you had people like...
Oh, I've watched that. Aye, sorry. I'm like, that's good familiar to me. I only just watched that recently.
I watched a wee bit and I couldn't fully get into it because of the guy's accent. But
I've not got fully into it either. I need to watch it though. No, I need to watch it as well.
I think I've got about half an hour of the last episode to watch, to be honest. But
right,
no spoilers.
I watched that.
So have you had situations like that? People ask. I'm not saying have you.
No.
Do you have an active serial killer on the payroll? Sort of thing?
No, but at the start, I used to joke and say, you get these laminated signs saying Polish class carabs, all of that. We could go to all the rough areas and laminated signs, blood spill in the mobile number. We never ever done it. And then, so a very, very interesting thing. I can't remember, don't ask me the name of the product because I can't remember. We got a call from a young girl who was renting out her beautiful flat to students. And it turned out it was a bit of a MDMA factory.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Right.
And there is a product out there that you can go in and it does break down all the DNA. But in saying that, if you get any of the jobs in to keep yourself right, you've got to make sure that it's reported to the police.
No. And
the police are well aware of it before we go in and break down the DNA and, all of that. So, yeah, that girl was delighted because she was just terrified going in and getting some kind of effect from it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and so the likes of Green and all of that malarkey. Mm-hmm. And hopefully this podcast doesn't again attract phone. So if anybody's out there with an MDMA factory or a grass factory, I won't come and clean it unless you involve the police.
Bear that in mind.
So yeah,
we will bear that in mind, Marie.
Yeah.
See, the fact that you have to go through it and do you have to do this often? Like if you'll find like a separate piece of DNA that the police have been looking for, because I imagine you're going to search deeper than the police are a lot of the time. Is that? I think she
does DNA.
No, I'm saying, but she has to report back certain things if she does find stuff. Like if you go under a.
Well, so yes. So there's been a couple of times where we've done a huge needle sweep, and we found like a bloody knife and all of that. So we reported that. And then I done a death scene not long ago, and just it was a drug user. There was loads of needles and stuff like that around. There was loads of, you get a plastic bag, right, and a takeaway. None of us take the time to undo the knot. We just rip the bag open there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I don't know anybody unknots the bag to get the takeaway out. I just rip the bag. So I'm just starving. So there was lots of bags like that, like the blue bags you get at the local shop kind of thing, with these tears in them, and I'm like, what's that? And when I went to look at the job the parents were in, and I didn't want to be like, oh, here I'm up to cleaning after your son kind of. I just went, I'm quite good at kind of pricing stuff and things like that now. So I just kind of briefly looked at it and left. Mm-hmm. Got the job, went back, and it was as if they had opening, emptying the rubbish bins and things like that, and I'm like just on the floor, like the TV was left behind, all the clothes were left behind, blah 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 blah. Mm. So I was like, I think they've been looking for something, just as I thought. So when I got to the sofa where you could tell he was sitting, blah blah blah, there was holes in it. Down the sides and loads of these bags. And I'm like, it's as if he's just sat and put his hands down and taken the stuff out the bag. This is why the bags are ripped. And whether it's true or not, I don't know. This is just where my head was taking it. Mm-hmm. So as I was going on, I opened a cupboard where you would keep your jackets and your ironing board and hoover and all that, right? Mm-hmm. And there was coats hung up, and when I was taking the coats up down to bag them, there was foreign food bags hung on the coats, and I'm like, oh, and I thought I could smell green in the cupboard. And when I opened the bags, it was loads of diazepam.
Right.
And not in boxes, just the what do you call it, sleeve.
Oh, odd sleeves, aye.
Right. There must have been, so then there was that bag, there must have been maybe 200 in that. Then further up, there was another bag, and I'm like, holy shit.
Jesus Christ.
And I'm like, what do I do here? And it was obviously in Paisley, and I hadn't long read a thing about a factory in Paisley, and it was all the kid on ones, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I was like, I put them in a sharp bin and they're just getting incinerated. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. And then I was like, stuff it, I'm just going to phone the police. So I phoned 101, and so they put me through it. She was like, so you're right to drive? I went, I've got a West Carriers license, but not for drugs. You don't know me. It's the type of luck I've got. I'll come to me to being get stopped and found all these drugs. Fuck off. Any police station? No way. And here's the next thing, she phoned me back, and she's like, I've got a number, a crime number or whatever for you, and they're well aware that you're coming to the station, so don't worry. And I'm like, right, okay. Mm-hmm. And that's what I done. I just, I was like, mind my fingerprints, mind on this. So we had to go in, thanks very much. And the address was actually a very well known address to them, and they couldn't have been nicer thanking me for handing them in. But again, I just didn't want them falling into the wrong hands. Or it was just one of these scenarios again, like shit, we're gonna, you know.
I just love that idea. I love that idea. You go into the police station with somewhat bloodshot eyes because of the stress of the whole situation, and they just assume you're doing some stuff.
Take a diazepam. Oh, let me just try one of these. Don't think so.
I wanted to go over with you. There was I watched a clip of Grime Scene Queens, and it's one of the funniest things I've seen.
I'm so surprised I've not seen this because I love that shit.
I remember watching something slightly. I mean, it probably was it. But one of the funniest things I've seen is you went into a hoarder's room. I'm not sure if it was you, but it was somebody in the team at least. Went into a hoarder's room, and there was just loads of like Chinese rappers and stuff sitting about. And whoever it was said, I think the Chinese get rid of me here, aye. It was
me.
Was that you?
It was me.
I went dying with that. Oh, it was great.
There's another bit, I want to explain another bit in the TV programme as well. And I very stupidly brought it up, and the producers hadn't really noticed it. And then they kind of split it into the TV, the programme, and I was like, you bitches. But it was the same house, and the guy had the cat. The guy was lovely. He was a young boy. He was really, really lovely. And he had a cat, and the cat was peeing on the couch. So the viewers have seen me. It was me and Mary, and we couldn't get so we lifted the couch up, and all this pee was just running down this couch over to the bottom corner, and we couldn't get it out the door. And I'm like, we need to take the legs off. So we get the top two legs off, the bottom one, and I'm stuck for about 20 minutes to this. What do you call that when a screws threaded?
Oh yeah.
And I was about 20 minutes. You know, I'm not in the view. I'm fucking stinking. I'm really frustrated, and then I bounced up and I went, that's the longest screw I've ever had. And after that I went, oh no, I can't believe I didn't do that.
Oh.
And there was loads of feedback on the programme there, and I was like, oh my god.
I'm so annoyed that I've not been able to actually see it, because I would love to watch it again.
I could fucking guarantee Mum's seen this.
Well, this is the sort of thing my mum likes. My mum's into all this kind of stuff. She had like she had like a weird fascination for prisons and stuff like that. So she loved like going visiting prisons.
Aye,
which fucking absolutely mental, absolutely crazy. But
she would have loved.
She would have loved this.
Like this.
So there's a prison in Edinburgh, and this guy kept doing a dirty protest, right?
Oh god, I hate them.
And you have no idea, right? Anyway, it's like you can't use the fogger, you can't use the steamer, you can't use, because people. And when I walked into the prison, it's all the security and all that, and I'm sitting down, and this woman's like, "You're that lassie off the telly, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Oh no!" I'm like, "Yeah." And we're put to this hall with it all that, and so the guy's in the cell next to us, right? He even took out that cell and put out the cell next to us. She's shouting across to us. He's like, "How you doing?" And all that. And you're like, "Guys, fine." I'm like, whilst I'm spraying and scrubbing his shit off the wall. And I'm like, I can't believe he's just talking about us like dead normal.
How did you find out that was him?
Because he told us.
I teased right at the beginning.
It was me saying that. It was like, so when they got into the conversation with him doing it, I said to him, he'll be back, I've started in this cell. And I was like, do me a favour, have you started in the ceiling yet? He's like, no. I went, we'll probably do it fucking hand high. The kids were terrified because on our eyes. And he's like, all right, hen. He's like, but I'm making you a fortune. I said, I don't know where you're getting this, but we ain't getting no fucking fortune, pal. So, it says, next thing time you come, he says, I'll have the tunes and that on for you, and you're like, perfect, that's great. So
I love
I'm
it.
like, right, that's just fellow Queens for you. You know, I hope you enjoy your nice clean cell. And he's like, oh, I hope you enjoy what I've got for you for next time. And me too.
You're like,
Fuck's sake.
premeditated shitty rim. Amazing.
Oh, fucking Christ.
So we get to go back. And I said, if this bastard put it on the ceiling and I've got to stand up, I'm telling them, I'm getting them told. We get there and we're like, oh yeah, that's it. He's like, oh, he's like, and he gets in, and there's a big fucking smiley face on the floor and shite. And I said, oh, when you're happy, it's like the police and I'm sitting in the ceiling. Oh, you've made my day. The next thing is like, what the tune's on, you're like, aye. And it says, I want to be a millionaire so fucking bad. And then there's somebody straight off the wall again, like he's done and going, fuck.
Oh my god.
Oh.
Oh,
That's
the most I've laughed on this podcast. Usually we're like trying to
Well,
hold it
I've
back.
missed half of what was said because I kept giggling.
Oh, man.
I should have pre-warned you.
Oh.
It'd be like this. Listen, if you don't laugh, you would cry, honest to God.
Oh.
Like, you would really cry.
Well, I'm currently doing both. Oh.
Tears come out the eyes there. Oh man, God, that was fun.
Right, compose yourself, Stephen. Compose yourself.
Yes, we'll try and get back to that one this time.
Sorry, guys. Do you think I could write a book?
Yes!
I think you could. You should
that would
write
be
a book.
the book that I would fucking read.
Maybe
I think I would. But I would actually love to. People laugh at me when I say that, but you know, I really would love to write a book because it's
Do a
so
podcast.
much stuff.
Do a podcast with me.
Aye, just do the podcast.
Well, that's something. If you do your own, because you can talk to other people. Well, it's like radio, but you could like go back and listen. It's like on demand radio, basically.
Yeah.
So.
Aye, maybe.
I think you'd be great at that. You're sort of naturally funny anyway.
Aye.
So like I think you'd be really good at that.
Aye, she's naturally funny.
Naturally funny.
Yes, I am fucking hilarious.
I've been called a lot. I think a lot of that in like being 17 and on a building site with hundreds of guys, and you know, like I think a lot of that comes with, you know, just the working environment I've been in.
Definitely, aye.
Just piss right out me when I was younger. I actually still work with a lot of the same guys, like 30 years later, kind of thing.
Oh.
Nice. So you've got like proper working environment, like you're all pals and you're all like close.
Aye, yeah.
Bro.
Yeah. I'm not like I've got like, I think with 27 employees, but I'm not like a kind of stuck up boss or them like that. Sometimes people will try and take the piss out, you know, my kindness, but they don't last very long. You know, you take me as you find me, and that's it.
You find them in a wee tub a few years later.
I could tell you that I could tell you an absolute belter. It's my most favourite story.
Mm-hmm.
If you want me to.
Yes, please do.
Please do. I
might not catch much yet, but I'll fucking have a go.
Right, the best is the best, right? So I got a call from the police control centre, right? And there was a wee lady who died, unfortunately, and the undertakers couldn't take away the body because a dog was lying next to her, right, Ted? So we're all like really animal friendly, dog friendly. My daughter was on a building site in Stirling, and I said, straight down tools, we've got a police call out, and it's like a 4-hour turnaround to the police ones, right? and it was away down in Ayrshire somewhere. So I says, right, down to come with the van. We've got a death scene. She's like, right, okay. And I thought, not mention the dog because she'll no come. So halfway down, she's like, Mum, what is it we're going to? And I said, we're going to a death scene and the body's still there and they can't move the body because the wee mum's dog climbed next to him. She was like, what? What are you talking about? And it's like, I'm like, oh, it's fine, just get your head set, like, get that mindset and you'll be alright, And she kind of plays her hair and shoots her thumbnail in, right? So she's shooting the thumb and playing with the hair and she's dead quiet and I'm driving away like, oh, God's sake. And she turned around, she was like, Mum, how could you not have had a hairdresser or something? A dog? I love dogs. How am I going to do this? So we shut up. We just need to do it. So we get there and there's like two cops and the older cop is there and there's a younger cop. It was his first death scene and the older cop's like, are you alright? The body's there and all that. And I was like, of course I'm alright. Like, every time I come, there's the body's always there. I'm really interested. Obviously respectful, what have you. Mm-hmm. So the wee woman was a bit of a holder. So I sat my keys down on like a pile of paper and the keys fell off and the young fellas jumped, right? And I forgot to take them and started it. Right? So I says, he's got to stay there with his officer, right? And I said, he's only a wee kind of staff mask on. And I says, look, as soon as I move this, it's going to be really stinking if you want to move over a bit. And he's like, I'm fine here. And I'm like, right, okay, no problem. I'm like, and it's like a plastic box, right? A snap lid, a snap shut lid, right? Like a big plastic container thing. So we get the dog up and it's kind of quite awkward and I was kind of getting the dog in and my daughter's like, Mum, I can't cope with this, I'm a way out. So she went out and I got the dog in and I bent down and I was just snapping the lid shut and I swear I didn't mean it. I didn't think about it. I just done it. And when I bent down and snapped the lid, I went, ruff! Jumped to my 10 feet there and ran out now.
Oh.
And I'm standing there holding this dog in this box, oxygen up my stuff going, fuck, I'm going to get arrested. I can't believe I've done that. Oh no. I stood for about 10 minutes, howling, like terrified for that nervous laughing me. See me go out. It was so funny. Oh, that's my best one. Because I can't believe
that is...
You knew me and I can't think you would expect something like that, but I just so I walked out and I was like, I'm so sorry. Once I composed myself, I'm like, I'm so sorry. And he was like, his colleague was pissing himself because the guy was starting to green shot me. And he's like, I suppose you need a kind of sense of humour. And I said the dog.
But see, this is...
That's my head, that's the bad.
This is one of the reasons that we started with the idea of talking about like the taboo subject of death, like for everybody, because people with these sense of humours are some of the fucking funniest things happen. But because they're like sort of,
you know. I've lost you.
Sorry, that was my fault. Is it? But what? I think we could get into some questions now, if you're up for it. I got some questions for the audience.
Yep.
Oh. Do you have questions as well, Craig? Or
have we got an audience?
Not right now. You will do when we put it out. This is just pre-recording.
Right. You're safe through.
You're safe through.
You've also got time to come back and to come back and ask us to delete things that you didn't want to be said.
I'll leave that up to you.
Right, okay.
Oh, no.
We'll go on with the first question here. This is from Kenzie. Does hydrogen peroxide destroy DNA, or is it a dumb myth?
I don't think it does. To be honest, I don't think it's not something I've done, or I don't know. The only thing I know about DNA is the product I use for like the drugs places of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't tell you that answer to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
We've got Leanne.
Things like that kind of suggest to me that they didn't never ask a cleaner to be involved in the making of Dexter, because nothing like this is ever discussed in Dexter. Mm-hmm. It's always just him being crime scene.
Totally got a question about that coming up.
Have you? All right, okay.
So we've got 3 questions here from Leanne. What was the most disgusting thing you've ever had to clean up?
That's quite a difficult question, because I don't really see it as disgusting. Right. So you get ones that are worse than others. Mm-hmm. Ones that will have more blood. Ones that will have more maggots. Ones like I can't cope with. So the maggots go everywhere. At like the darkest, dingiest miles. They just travel everywhere. They're a nightmare, and they go into these wee carcasses, and then the carcasses hatch, and that's them they fly. And I cannot stand when I actually stand on one and they crack. It just gives me the jeebies right up my whole body.
Oh, that caught me off guard there.
Oh God. That I can cope with the smells. I can cope with actually touching it. I can cope with, but that really freaks me out. I don't need to do it. And if the dog has got maggots and that, then the carcass will be there. Mm-hmm. But
there you go. Oh.
I don't know.
I didn't think maggots cracked. I would have expected a squish.
I've not been close to a maggot to ever check.
They go into like a carcass, like a caterpillar goes into to be a butterfly.
Oh right, okay, right.
Yeah?
I see.
So it's like a wee brown kind of a shell, and then that cracks open, and that's when the fly comes out.
Last question from Leanne. Have you ever spewed on scene?
Never.
Never, no.
Never. I've never been sick. No, never.
I've got tremendous respect for you now.
Absolute respect, aye.
I think my facial expressions don't change. Like I don't, and the staff are all warned to dare say or look or anything. Like, remember, I was saying to you, I was watching a programme the other night, and I was actually disgusted that there was 2 cleaners in doing this old guy's house, and they were kind of making faces like behind his back, like if you're discussing it, and I was like, you bitches, that's terrible, like fucking hell, like. So we're really, no. I've never been sick, and I never let anything show on my face or anything like that. If I'm offered a cup of tea or anything like that, I've always just had my lunch. You know what I mean?
Oh right, aye. The classic.
Aye. So
that's next question from Katie Welsh. Do you ever get depressed doing this line of work?
Again, no. But when I was speaking about, like earlier, it was getting a bit harrowing for me because it was near enough every day. It was like, I would say, like in the course of 3 months, we were leaving one death scene, going to another, then the next day with another one in, then maybe we didn't have one in, then with another one in. So normally you're like maybe one a month or one every 2 months, so you're getting that, that time to recover and go and, move on to your next one. Whereas for like 3 full weeks, we just weren't getting a break from it. It was just constant. And it did start getting to me a wee bit.
Are crime scene cleaners considered to be members of law enforcement?
No.
Next question.
Definitely not. So people think that the police automatically get us in to clean up, but it's a total mess. It's down to the family member, down to the next of kin.
Daniel Sheridan, does the job pay well? It must attract a very minimal number of employable candidates.
You would be surprised at people that, send me emails saying they would love to get into the line of work and stuff like that. So there is minimum staff that I would take on a job,
Right.
definitely. And as in the money side of things, I try and save my clients as much as I can. For example, say someone died on a floor and, it's a bit of carpet that's all blood. I would cut out the infected bit of carpet, biohazard that, and the rest and go to landfill. Instead of me charging them hundreds of pounds to dispose of the full carpet, things like that. Sometimes you can have people died on their bed. It's not through the mattress, it's not through the base, it's not through the carpet, it's not through the underlay, and you need to get full. You need to get a joiner in and cut out the floorboards and replace the floorboards and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
So some of it can be really expensive for the client, because incineration costs are really high. You can make good money at it, but I tend to probably undercut myself far too much, to be honest. But that's just me.
I think that's probably going to be a lot. I don't know if it's going to be a majority, but I think a lot of the people that go into that line of work, you might have a dark sense of humour, you might have, let's say, different interests, but there's going to be a higher level of empathy, I would imagine, as well, because of the kind of job that you're doing. Maybe not at the beginning, but at least after you've been doing it for a while. So I think a lot of people are going to automatically try and undercut to try and save people money, just to help them a wee bit.
And listen, there's a lot of them don't pay. There's a lot that, I think one year we were about £7,000 in total in non-payments.
Right.
That's annoying. That is really annoying, because we're going out of way to really help the people, and I've got to pick up the incineration costs. I've still got to pay my staff their wages. So that really pisses me off, where people think that it's all right for me to pay for their mother to be cleaned up after, or their dog to be cremated. And my fucking dog, I love dogs, but I still have to pay to get it cremated. Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
So aye. That does happen.
Oh. We've got Donald Mackin. Is there is your own home spotless? Bit of a cheeky question.
There's that question.
Does a painter paint his own house? Does a gardener do his own gardening? No, it's not. My house isn't dirty. Certainly not dirty, but my days are really long. I'm in isolation, as you know, so it's kind of, I'm changing my room about, and I'm an avid ironer. I love to iron. I think ironing helps me a lot. I think ironing, if I'm pissed off at a bad day, get the iron on. Sometimes I pull out clothes out of drawers and iron them again and put them by. Don't know why.
I can't imagine doing that. When's the last time you ironed something?
Sometimes I'm like, I love to iron. I've got a dead cool iron and an ironing board. So sometimes I'll get in 4, 5, 6 o'clock, see the kids, and then it's straight on the phone. There's staff phoning, there's managers phoning, what's happening tomorrow. Somebody can't go in, so I need to book that job. Sometimes I can be on the phone 8, 9 o'clock at night, and then I go, bed, let's go, everybody bed down. So that happens. We do, midweek we'll do the dishes, we'll do the bathroom, we'll do the kitchen, we do the washing, we do the, the drying of the clothes, all of that. And then at the weekends, the kids are supposed to help, but they don't.
As kids do.
So we just go, right, Mum, I'll do it. Next question.
Do you get, you were talking about how you had a police thing, and it was like a quick turnaround, so it was like sort of drop tools and get going. Do you ever get like during the night things where they need something cleaned up that night?
No.
Oh, no, I was going to think.
No, that's another kind of myth as well, because say there's something with the police, so we don't go in until the police are completely finished.
Right.
So that takes hours, as you know. So they've got to, the police, by the time the police go in and do their bit, it's well into the next day.
Right.
Sometimes 2 days. Sometimes as well, we'll get a call where there's been an undiscovered death, and the family member will phone, and they say, but the police have got the keys. I don't know when I'll get them back. They kind of, and I'll always say, right, you're probably talking about 14 days, because obviously it's happened for so many times, and so and then sometimes I'll go. The family don't want to go, so the family will identify me, and I'll go to the police station and pick up the keys and drop the keys back off at the police and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
You get a lot of people phoning, get a lot of companies thinking, oh, that sounds great, I'm going to go there and do that. And it's no, because it's took me 12 years to get where I'm in now, and I still don't do them every day, because it's all phone marked, it's all as and when it happens.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't predict somebody's going to die, you can't predict somebody's going to kill themselves, you can't predict somebody's going to drop a needle, you can't predict you're going to get your witness COVID, you know? So a lot of people are disillusionised a wee bit, think they can start all this and they buy all the stuff and everything, they just don't get any work.
That's it.
It's quite sad.
It's common for a lot of jobs that
and a lot of people will phone up and say,
on you go.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people phone up and they'll describe a job and they'll say, can I get a quote? And I'll no, because I've got to see it first, because there's a lot of factors come into it, like, was it on the couch, does the full couch need to go, was it on the bed, does the full mattress need to go, was it, you know, and you get a lot of companies kind of fishing off you as well, seeing what you're charging and things like that, and then you get a lot of them, they just want a ballpark figure, so I'm like, well, between 500 and 5,000, I don't know, until I get there, it's all down to disposal. So I get a lot of that, so a lot of them you've got to go and price up. Most of them, I'll not do it. I'll not give a verbal price over the phone, because I've been stung with it before, and I've also overcharged a client as well, which I never actually overcharged them. I said to them, look, I've gave you to a higher price.
Right.
It's not as bad as I thought. Do you know what I mean? So, especially the hoarders, you need to really go and see your hoarders.
Definitely,
the hoarders.
Because they just tell you, they're really difficult. There's no way you can price them over the phone, because they're like, well, it's bad, but it's not too bad, and you go and it's absolutely floor to ceiling, you know.
Yeah.
Or sometimes their bad isn't my bad, you know. So it's all different. Every job's the same but different.
That's fine. Last question here from Rachel Morrison. What tropes do you see in films that you can debunk? Like we were talking about Dexter earlier on and stuff. Have you seen stuff in films or like TV and stuff that you're like, that's like shite?
Let me think. Probably. I think so, but I can't think of any examples, to be honest. But I think that's happened before.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we touched a wee bit on the hydrogen peroxide thing and stuff.
I remember one time when COVID just came out, and I was watching the news. It must have been like the first week of it, and I was watching the news, and they were filming in a hospital, and I was absolutely horrified, because the surgeon or whoever had went had walked to the bin and took his gloves off, and then started taking the rest of his PPE off, and I was horrified. I was like, fucking hell, he's just potentially infected himself, you know, because he took his gloves off first.
Jeez. So
there's a lot of that. There's a lot of people think that they're doing it right and they're not doing it right.
Mm-hmm. There was a surgeon that done that.
It was like a mock thing. They were showing you what they would do, and kind of it was on like News at 10 or something like that. And I was like, and my phone started going, and my staff were going, "Did you see that? Did you see that?" And I'm like, "Aye." Like, fucking hell, he took his gloves off first and he didn't even have 2 pair of gloves on. She always double glove in case you get like a slit in the glove or something.
Oh, right.
So like the magic rule is you put 2 pair of gloves on.
I'll need that.
That's
Because
like-
you get like
Opposite a condom, innit?
you get like what's that?
It's like the opposite to the rule of a condom because you can't put 2 of them on because it makes it more dangerous.
I didn't know that.
News for Maria there. Perfect.
It's a day of learning.
Aye, mhm.
We all learn something, don't we?
Aye. Aye, you learn something new every day.
That's it. I feel like
Every day's a school day.
I feel like every podcast ends on a weird note, and it just has again.
Well, because of me, or you got another question?
No. Just we're going to end. I don't have anything else, but that's it. So I'll just
I'm going to edit that bit out.
perfect. Thank you, Marie, for joining us. It's been amazing.
Probably the funniest podcast we've ever done.
Thank you. So
And
I
we've
don't
had
really
comedians
know
on.
much about. I